call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, please.
Rich Swordall is on his way.
Mayor Steve Feldman.
Here.
Rich Scordo.
Here.
Robert Bauer.
Here.
Joe Bauer.
Here.
Jerry Debate.
Here.
Thank you. All right, tonight, I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Brown makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Debate makes that motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Bernard makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Brown makes that second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion passes. Thanks. All right, moving on to, we open the public.
Nobody.
Nobody? All right, then we'll get down to the meat of the agenda tonight. Public hearings. Public hearings, certified assessments for delinquent utilities, miscellaneous invoices, and administrative fines, resolution 2018-38. Let me preface this before I start tonight. This is the one job of this job that I have and these council members have that we don't like to do. So, I don't like myself to have to make a decision with my back to the wall, and I have no reason, no choice but to do something for the betterment of the whole city. But this is one part of the job I do not like. I'll open up the public hearing at this time, Dave, right, at 6:03. You're welcome to come up, state your name and address. We'll start with just the addresses. Show us how we're going to do that, or just...
Sure. Honorable members of the council, whoever wants to come up and address the council may do so at this time. Also, we did list up the formal appeal letters that we do have in the packet. If those people are here, they should clearly state their name and address for the record. And we can work through one by one.
I might as well start. I don't mean to make this uncomfortable. I apologize. I'm Joanne Edie, 5701 Ambassador Boulevard, I can send a letter in. And it's probably my ignorance. What I understood, I was being charged a fee for wastewater. Maybe I'm mistaken. If that's the case, I don't understand. I'm on city sewer, I have no well water. The county takes care of the culvert, and I have to take care of my wastewater with my septic. So I was wondering if he could be waived or what if he was.
Well, let me explain it to you, ma'am. It's about stormwater, not wastewater or city water, but it's a federal law that came down from the feds to the state to the county. It involves cities of 10,000 population or at least 5,000 population that discharge shall now stand the resource water value system, which we do through the Seeley Brook, which is a tributary of the Rum River source. So we have tried to get around this. I've tried and tried, and council's tried, staff has looked at it, but there is no way around it as of this time.
Okay.
So I'm sorry about it. To let you know though, it doesn't go, it goes by parcel, it doesn't go by rural or urban. We checked in other cities. We have kept our costs down the same for the last 3 years since it went into effect in 2015, and we are keeping an eye on it. But if there's a change to the law, we'll definitely enact it here.
Sorry to take your
Can
time.
you stay on that?
Ma'am?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, like the mayor said, this is a stormwater fee, and what that is, it's rainfall or snow runoff or anything like that. And what this fee is used for, it's put in a separate account. And it's, like the mayor said, it's a federal thing that it mandates that we do certain things. Street sweeping, cleaning out culverts and all this stuff that is going to ensure that the stormwater doesn't run directly into the Rum River or Seeley Brook and try to keep our waterways clean. So we're just trying to manage the stormwater. And so by doing that, the feds say that you have to do these certain things. So our city, a lot of cities, they'll just assess it right on the county tax bill.
Yep.
City of St. Francis hasn't done that. We just sent everybody a little postcard bill for $60. And that money goes into a separate account, and it's only to be used for approved expenditures. So that's what that assessment's for.
Like I said, I needed an explanation of this, I'm sorry to take up your time.
No,
So
absolutely.
that's fine, and just as Jerry said, it is in, by the way, it is into a dedicated account for storm water related activities only, nothing else, no wastewater, no water. Just for that.
So Darcy, if she were able to remit payment to you tomorrow, could she avoid getting the 10% interest charge that's on
Okay,
the
so yeah, City Hall? Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to, I'm just gonna state the address, and then they can come up, is that a good way to do it, or how do you?
If they're in attendance, or if they're not in attendance, if we want to address them separately by discussion at the council after the public hearing, I think, if everyone that's here to speak should have an opportunity to speak.
Okay, so is anybody here that comes to speak to the public hearing part of this meeting tonight? Please come up and state your name.
Okay. Good evening. It's a pleasure to see the city council do the pledge of allegiance. I know some of the crazy communities in this country are fighting that, but I commend you for doing it, and I agree 100%. I'm representing 23434 Peterson Drive. My name is Randy Barrows. I am the landlord there. We have gotten notices from time to time from the city staff about the too many cars on the lot. Every time my renter has done that, I have responded immediately to get to know all your city staff very well. There's a fine group of individuals, by the way. Jody, your front counter gal, is very, very helpful, and Mike also. Every time that has come up, we responded immediately, come up to the city staff, dealt with the issue, went, got the situation dealt with, and I thought everything was in good shape. Last spring, I understood that everything was in good standing, and I hadn't heard anything all summer long. And then about a month ago, I got another letter, and the fee was up to like $5,300, and I was rather taken aback by that one. So I shot right up and talked to Jody and Mike again, and they told me about the appeal process, and so I did put that appeal letter in there. I mean, we have certainly not tried to ignore the city. We've been right up to the city hall the next day after each letter that I've received, trying to deal with this matter. So that's why the letter of appeal, and I put that in your hands to see what council you can share on that matter.
Take a deep breath here, but, so you're saying this is a renter situation?
Yes.
Okay. And, how long has he rented from you?
I believe he's on his third year.
And you tried to tell him the rules and policies of the city? So what does he not
Many
understand?
times, yes.
What does he not understand?
Only you're my hairdresser knows for sure. I felt I'm out there about every other week. Kelly, you can't have this many cars. You got to get rid of them. And they're gone for a while, and then a while later they're back again. So it is an ongoing issue, believe me.
Right, well, you know, the frustration I have, and I'm sure council faces the same thing, is that this goes through a process, and the process is we don't mean to find, we try to work with you on this, talked to my staff about this many times, but what happens is, when we get no attention or anything back, we are forced to do something, and the pocketbook seems to be about the only way that brings any attention, because it obviously got you here.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with renters, I would wonder why you're not telling him either you stop parking cars here or leave the house.
Well, yeah, and you're exactly right, Mr. Mayor. I did contact my attorney, and here's the eviction notice right here, because I don't see any other way to go about it. I'm tired of talking to the individual. Like I say, I have not ignored the city letters at all. I'm right up here the next day and have, dealt with the city staff, and I'm sure they can verify I've been right Johnny on the spot to come up and try to deal with this, and then I leave from the city and go over there and deal with him. Like I say, then they're gone for a while, and pretty soon they start building up again, and so I guess I'm at the end of my rope. I don't know what else to do but do an eviction, because he doesn't seem to understand you can't have this many cars there.
Well, I understand there's a renter mentality and owner mentality, I understand that, but I also understand that in 3 years, if it's the same gentleman, it's going on and on and on. Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah.
I mean, because now you put a situation into our hands, and it should never have gotten to our hands that it's been dealt earlier. So I'm gonna open this up for some discussion after I ask Kate. Is this been the same individual at that house over the last 3 years that this has been going on?
Mayor and council, the 2 years that we've been dealing with the vehicles at this property, is our understanding it has been the same tenant.
Same tenant. And in that same 2 years, you have told him more than once to stop it?
I have told him almost weekly. And like I say, then they are gone for a while, and then little by little they build up again. So it's an ongoing issue.
And what does he say is the reason for all these cars in that driveway? What's he say?
His friends and buddies and stuff that, he ends up having. Some of them are his own vehicles that he likes to tinker with, and, he's one of those car guys that likes to goof around with vehicles. And
See, the one concern we have as a council is you have neighbors around your house, and those are the ones that we're concerned about, because it's their neighborhood too. It's just not one individual role, so we have to deal with that. So I want to open this up for some discussion, because I want to get council's feedback on this. Rich, can you give me your input on this, please?
All right, so let me make sure I'm not gonna say get the facts straight, because that might take a while. Okay, so I guess I'll say the cover letter that staff put together for us. I see citations 1 through 5, or 1, 2, 3, so I see 7 citations, starting July of 2017. I see the infractions ranging anywhere from multiple cars to a potential business that would require an IUP. I see some work being done on a building without a building permit. So I see a lot of stuff going on here, right, Kate?
Correct.
And so as this process goes along, we issue a citation number 1, and it's a letter that says, hey, you shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff. Please stop, and there's a nominal fine of like $50 or something.
Correct.
And then as time goes on and things are rectified, we'll send another letter, and the fine will go to whatever the next step is, $100
Correct.
or whatever. So I guess my question is, so and I know you're in a difficult position as you're a landlord, but I think, the dollar amount keeps increasing because things don't get fixed, and so then another letter goes out, and then another letter goes out. I guess I don't know what should you have done that you didn't do? If you would have paid a $50 fine, you would have had to go out and verify that the condition was rectified, right?
Correct.
If it wasn't, the fines would just keep building, right? So as a property owner, I guess where I'm trying, I don't want to say it this way, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm trying to poke around and figure out why I can point the finger at you, what you should have done, but I don't know what that is.
Well, if I may, every time the city contacted me, like I said, I would go and meet with the city, they'd tell me the interesting thing, I own properties in 5 different communities in, kind of Cambridge area. Every city, has different ordinances, which makes it a bit challenging to keep up with all the different, for example, when I buy a property, I have it professionally examined so that things are, well, you have to, the mortgage fund is going to, wants everything to be kosher and up to date, and so we always pay for that. And everything checked out just fine. when I bought that property, and then I got a note from the city about there was like an 8x8 little storage shed outside the garage, and I was notified that St. Francis doesn't like those little storage sheds. Well, okay, that is a unique position that this city holds. I mean, Menards, Home Depot, Lowe's, Farm Fleet, they sell these things like crazy. I live in Ramsey. I think every other neighbor in my cul-de-sac has one of those buildings, but, you know, St. Francis don't like them. Okay, so they told me about it. It went down. We got rid of it. The pole barn that's there had an extension over a cement area and already had the posts holding up that part of the roof. And so the tenants started to fill that in. And we got notified by the city that, no, you can't do that. So immediately that stopped. So I mean, every time that we have been notified of something, we have complied with what the city staff has told us that had to be the situation.
Okay, so if that's the case, then how does the meter keep running?
I wish I knew.
Mayor and council, so within our city code, I attached the city code, and one thing we have is when somebody gets a citation, they have 10 days at the time of issuance to pay. So that's why we're here today with that. However, within those payment of penalties, there is a line where payment of penalty without correction of the violation, if the owner pays the administrative penalty but fails to correct the violation, the city may issue subsequent administrative citations, initial criminal proceedings, or initiate other proceedings and remedies. So as you can see, even if he came in and paid one of those citations, when we went out for that inspection and took additional pictures, there were still violations and issues that hadn't been addressed. So that's how that meter keeps ticking, is with our three choices, it's the payment of the penalty and the correction have to happen. But if they pay and don't correct it, or if they fail to pay and don't correct it, those keep those meters running.
Okay, so so he's got a different side of the story than what you just told, from what I heard. In your opinion, when you were notified of infraction number 1, you paid the fine and it was corrected. Our opinion is the fine was paid, but it was not correct.
Yeah, I came up to the city, we dealt with the situation, I dealt with the tenant, and then everything went away for a while. And all of a sudden, more cars showed up, and then the city contacted me again, and then I go back up there, deal with it, and it's corrected for a while. Like I say, literally, from I think for the last 6 months, I've heard nothing from the city staff. And I was shocked when I got this last letter about a month ago, and immediately went up and met with Jody and Mike. And then I went over and met with the tenant again and said, you've got to get rid of these cars now. He's been very slow about doing it, by the way.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure I know what, I think the landlord is doing the right thing, because I believe he has a tenant that has no desire to keep the property in compliance.
I think one thing that the city staff would admit though, when you drive by the property, I mean, it's nice and neat. It's not, it doesn't look like a junkyard with stuff everywhere. When you drive by on Peterson, I mean, the tenant does keep the property looking nice and neat and clean, and the grass is mowed, and it's not an eyesore kind of a property, you know, that from that perspective. But yes, there are too many cars on it.
Can I ask you a question here? Is this gentleman running a business out of this facility?
He has his buddies and doing, you know, all that.
Is he
kind of stuff.
running a business out of this facility?
Not to my knowledge. There's no signage of it or.
That doesn't mean he's not doing that.
Well, yeah, okay.
And because we've had cases like this before. But what I
Sure.
also want to tell you is, I understand your thought is that you notified him, but the responsible party of the property is you.
That is correct.
Not the renter.
That is correct.
All roads lead to you.
Yep.
Okay, so, you know, as I stated before this meeting, this open hearing started, this is one of the things I don't like, and I can see by Rich's, you know, conversation here, and I'm sure that the other council members have input here, this is a decision we don't like making. I don't like buying anybody anything. I know it's a hard world out there, and $3 counts, but this gentleman here, in my opinion, you should have gotten rid of him right away. And he's costing you money, and you're asking us to be lenient, but we have a whole city to deal with. So what this becomes a precedent, a domino effect for us, we can't allow to happen. If I was you, by the way, like I say again, I would have told this guy right here, you cut this out, stop it now. If it happens again, you're out, period, end of notice. That would save you a lot of grief, and sure as heck us a lot of grief. So I'm gonna have to pass this down to council and get their opinions on this. Rob, what do you have to say about this?
I struggle with this portion. I struggled with it last year when we brought this to city council. I gotta side a little bit with Rich. It's hard for us to, I know you rent that property out. I don't like the timelines of the offenses. That's just my personal opinion. If you get the citation, if you do nothing, we could go out there the next day and say, hey, you did nothing, so here's another citation. The next day and the next day. So I don't like
10
residents.
10 days.
10 days, and then 10 days and 10 days.
Yeah.
You've come forward, but this property is a mess, as you can see by the pictures. I struggle with giving lenience to the citations once the process is already started.
Okay, but like you said, I have always come up and dealt with the city staff and then went right over and, did what I could with the tenant outside of an eviction, and here's the eviction right here, because there's no other options.
And I hope if this citation goes forward, that you can use this as a stepping stone to recoup some of your money through the legal process. But it's tough for me to decide to waive these citations on this property.
One question I have, the last one I saw was like 2,000. How did you all of a sudden get to 5,300 when I heard nothing from the city staff all summer long? I mean, there was no, interaction from the city at all. I thought everything was fine.
Mayor and Councilman, the 5,300 is an accumulation of all the fees as they increase. So you get the $100 fee, and then if the second letter goes out, it's a $200 fee. The owner now owes $300. So what that 5,300 is not one citation, it's an accumulation of all outstanding citations.
And each citation has a notice that goes with it, correct?
Correct.
I mean, you just don't sit there on a first notification, do a fifth notification, and just compound it. You notify them each time there's an increase.
On the bottom of our letters, you will see the step increases that our citations bring with them.
But so again, he's notified each time that there's a new penalty coming, a new fine coming.
Yes, each letter has a deadline, and then the fees that citation itself accrues, and then the deadline where we'd be back for pictures, as you see throughout the packet, and where the next step would take effect.
Let me ask you this. How often as the landlord do you drive by this property to check on it? Once a month, once every 6 months?
Probably every other week.
Every other week. And every other week, in 2 years, you didn't see any problem here that we saw that you didn't see?
Sure. I told him he had to get rid of the stuff. But I also went to the city and dealt with the staff regularly, and they did not say, you need to pay this or your thing's going to keep going up. I mean, that was never...
The letter was in the citation.
You should have, in my opinion, sir, you should have passed that debt on to him immediately. And that way, each time you got bumped, he should have gotten bumped, and eventually he would have left. But in the meantime, by saying that we didn't notify you, well, we do notify, and it's all documented here.
Yes, yeah, I'm not saying you didn't notify me. What I'm saying is I would immediately go to the city staff and they would, go out and check whatever and say, yeah, it looks better, things are looking up, thank you for helping us, and not saying anything, but you still owe, that was never communicated that I still owe. I thought the problem was resolved because I'd go meet with the city staff, and I was led to believe that things were under control, and thanks for helping us out. And like I say, the city staff's been more than helpful, more than patient and kind with it, but as far as, I don't know how you get from 100 to 200 to 300 to 5,300. I mean, wow.
Well, that's a question we have here as a council. We wonder how that got that far too. But
Yeah.
it wasn't because of
Because I
staff.
paid it long
It wasn't
before.
because of staff not notifying you, sir. It was because you let the action continue with the renter. That's the problem. You let a renter get by when you shouldn't have. First offense, you should have told him, I'm gonna charge you more on your rent to pay off that fine. Second offense, so on and so forth, until you got up to $5,250 or $5,300 or whatever. Should have said, you're paying that bill, because I'm not paying it, and that's your responsibility to us. See, we don't deal with the renter, we deal with you.
That's right.
Joe, let me have your input on this, please.
I see two separate occasions here. Looks like there's an issue in 17, and then I don't know if it was resolved after August there, because then it starts over back at citation number 1 again. So maybe you corrected it the one time, but then to say that you thought everything was taken care of, and then 30 days later or so, you get another letter, and then 30 days later you get another letter, and then so on and so forth. That to think that it's okay, or that everything's resolved, and you're at 5 letters in 4 months, I don't understand, I guess that, how you can think it was okay if you're continually getting letters.
Because every letter that I received, I would go up and meet with Jody and Mike, and they would indicate that, you know, things were looking better and they appreciated the help, and didn't say, but you still owe it. That was never once told me, but you still owe this.
But if you didn't pay it, I mean, it says right in the letter, so that if you don't pay it and correct the problem, that it continues to add up. So, I mean, I
But I thought that-
did you think like you went and talked to him and then smoothed it over and now you didn't have to pay it, or I'm confused?
Basically, I thought the letter was just, you know, trying to get my attention that the city wants this dealt with. So I'd go up and meet with them the very next day and try to, you know, get this handled, and then I'd go talk to the tenant, and he would, you know, clean things up for a while, and then it would reoccur again. So, I was never on the understanding that these funds were owed, or I would have paid them right then and there, just to be done with the matter. But the communicating with the city staff seemed to indicate, okay, we're making progress, you're, you know, doing what you can on the deal, we're content with the situation. I was not informed that the funds were still owed after I met with the city staff.
Let me do a clarification here with Dave, our attorney. Dave, once cited, okay, the only ones who can wipe out that citation is this council here, correct, Dave?
Correct.
All right, so that when you're cited, staff can't do anything, it's already there. Okay, kind of like when a police officer writes a ticket, if I'm correct, he can't cross it out. It's written. Usually, right? I mean, so in other words, if you have a change of heart, I've never seen like that happen myself, but anyways, I just want to say to you, I'm just saying to you, once a citation is written, okay?
Right.
You owe it. Unless you
Okay,
come,
I didn't know.
unless you come before this body, which you're doing now, and
Yes.
try to get it taken away. And that's the problem we have, or at least I have, the fact that this has been going on so long, and once again, you're the responsible party, and this gentleman, whoever this is, because I believe, without proof, that this man's running a business out of that facility, is what I think anyways. Because the amount of cars there, ins and outs and everything, that would be my guess. Without proving it, without going there, I can't tell you. But like I say again, you know, when you get a good renter, life is good. When you get a bad renter, life is not good. And that's what you have here. And this man here, that's why it's for your responsibility when cited to making sure that he understands that if you continue this, you're gonna be the one paying this bill, not me. And that's why I agree with Mr. Bauer that hopefully you could do something to court with this. Joe, do you have anything further to say here? I'm gonna pass it on to Jerry then.
You know, virtually the last line in every letter, it says, if unpaid, these penalties and abatement costs will be charged to your property taxes. And that's on every letter. I understand your plight, you're a landlord, and sometimes dealing with tenants is difficult, but that's kind of what you sign up for when you become a landlord, to be honest with you.
True.
I do have a property that lives very close to me, that, I mean, it's actually a guy in my backyard. It's horrible. The city will come out, he cleans it up for one day, he'll tow cars, park them in the road, so they're not on his property. The guy will come out and inspect it. As soon as he leaves, he hooks up a chain and tows them back into his property. So there is, you know, so the city says, well, yeah, they took care of it, but then the very next day, it falls back to the same. So there is a thing on this administrative thing that, you know, there's recurring issues as well. You know, just because, you know, something's taken care of for one day and as soon as the inspector leaves, you muck it all back up again, you know, that's not in good faith, to be honest with you. You know, the thing that's concerning to me is, I mean, you got your first offense, which is $100. The second offense is $200, so that's the first $100 plus the $200, then, which is $300.
Yes.
Then you got your third offense, which is a $500, which is a $300 plus the $500, so that's $800. Then the fourth offense is $1,000, so that's your $800 plus your $1,000. And then now your fifth offense, which is an additional $2,000. So every time just because you get another offense doesn't mean that you don't pay all the previous offenses and this is your new balance. You still owe the balance that was owed prior, and this is on top of that. You know, this is exactly why we have the administrative enforcement in effect. You know, with these fines, the other option that the city would have is to hire somebody to go around and enforce this with a police officer at a cost of $100,000, you know, a year with benefits and everything. But drive around and tag people and follow up on it every single day, and we opted not to do that. We went with this administrative process because there is only, you know, 5% of our city that has issues like this, and we think it's just better to deal with it like this on a case-by-case basis and find you and try to hit you in the pocketbook and try to, you know, take care of some of this stuff. I think the mayor is right. I think the buck ultimately stops with the landlord.
Sure.
You know, and the way our process is the person, the owner of the property on record at Anoka County, which would be you, would get a letter. In addition, a letter is also sent to the address located within St. Francis. So your tenants have also got this letter. So it's, your tenants knew exactly what they were doing and what they were in violation of as well. And, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they got it, but I
well,
believe, you know, they
did, that's our process.
Sure, completely.
You know, so the city has tried to communicate in good faith. Maybe some things were taken care of. Maybe they weren't taken care of. You know, maybe things just got cleaned up that day and the next day. I don't know. But I do know that with the documentation that we have, I mean, clearly this is a violation, and we're up to the fifth offense. And this has been going on for several years.
Couple,
Yeah, well, yeah, more than one.
Couple
Yeah.
of this right there.
You know,
Yeah.
more than one. I have a hard time being lenient as well, to be honest with you. You know, this is our job, is to try to make things fair. And if we make an exception for you, we have a lot of landlords here in St. Francis. And we have landlords that have tenants that have left an astronomical large water bill. And they've just moved out, left the water running and moved out, and the heck with it. And a landlord has come to us with thousands of dollars worth of water bill. You know, and you know, our assessment policy is we assess the property. You know, it's hard to tag a renter when they move out and all of a sudden they're living in Baudette. You know, so it's you know, so it's hard to tag that. The best thing we can do is tag the property, and unfortunately you're the owner of the property. You know, and if
Right,
you
but
do
I'm not the type of landlord that just foo-foos and blows off the city and doesn't come out and say, I responded immediately after each letter, and the idea was, when I left there, I thought, you know, that the city staff, you know, agreed that I was doing, you know, the right thing by trying to respond and get the thing going. I was not left with the impression, but you still owe this money, so.
right, and I'm not saying that you're a bad landlord. I don't want you to get me wrong, and I'm not
No,
saying
I-
that you're, you know,
Yeah,
but what I am saying is, to me, it's clear on the documentation. I mean, it says, if unpaid, penalties and abatement costs will be charged to your property. You know, so to me, it's black and white, you know, whether or not that's your understanding of it. You know, is,
but for example, when I got my tax statement, you know, for this year, there was no increase on it for the deal, so I'm thinking, you know, okay, so the city staff, I didn't know you had to come here to get, or, you know, I mean, I'm not a resident of St. Francis, I don't know all the ins and outs. of
But
the
you
city.
have property in San Francisco.
Yes.
That's the deal here, so.
Exactly, but I'm just saying, that
Travis,
was,
are you done?
I'm done, Your Honor.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask a question.
Please.
So if I'm looking at citation number, I guess I don't know which one it is, it would have been dated April 28th of 18, so it's somewhere down the pike after you've got a few citations. It says total fines $1,000. Then another letter comes, it's dated 4/12 of 18, and total fines $2,100. That should be included, the meter's running, right?
yeah, and I
I
would
mean, that's,
go up and meet with the city each time.
I don't know, that's what I struggle with. It seems like the letters are clearly stating, hey, you know, this.
The gentleman, Mr., I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but I mean, you know, the letters clearly tell you a fine was not paid, so here's another one. Fine was not paid.
Well, how do we get from $2,000 in April to $5,000 now? I mean, that's awful.
It can't,
It's a compiler.
it's just constant.
There's multiple violations.
But also, let me ask you something, Kate. Is this has been 2 years with this renter?
Yes.
And you've had the property for how long?
That's one of that.
Okay. Have we had other problems besides this renter, or is this the only one we're dealing with?
Mayor and Council, in regards to this property, this is the only renter we're aware of. However, with our registration, we don't ask the renter's name. So if it would have traded hands somewhere in the center, we may not have had that information. When our letters go to the property, they go to the tenant or the occupant because we don't necessarily have the renter's name. We have the owner's name from property records. As far as we're aware, in the conversations from our building official and the interaction we've had, we do have one renter's name to date that we've worked with. But again, if it had changed over, that isn't something that necessarily would.
Have you had communication with the renter? Has he come in at all, talked at all, or just puts it off to the landlord?
Mayor and Council, the tenant has not come into City Hall. The only communication we've had is when our building official or inspectors have been on site.
And see, this is my concern, is as you started getting these fees compounded, okay, and it started getting up from 100 to 200, as Mr. Debate said, and then 500 on top of that, and then 1,000 on top of that, and 2,000 on top of that. You should have gone, and I know this is 2020, but you should have gone to your guy and say, you know what, this is enough, because my name is on the line, it's my property. And you should have said, that's it. I mean, to let him stay there 2 years and do this to you, which we're, you know, and again, put this council in this position to sit here and try to rectify this in some form or some way, and as Mr. Debate alluded to, and I myself have said, we can't start a precedent here. We have other landlords here. It's come to our attention now, it's come too far and too long, something has to be done here. To give you a break here makes that land, just puts out a message here that we're lenient, and I want to be lenient where I can be. Had you come to me, had you called up a staff here and said to them at $100, I'm working on it right now, I'm going to get back to you, blah, blah, and here's $100, whatever, this would have stopped right back then. But by going 100 to 200 to 500 to 1,000 and so on and so forth, you now made this problem beyond control now. It's out of our hands, basically. And this gentleman that we rent to, I would have an eviction notice on him tonight. I would go serve him. But this cannot go on any longer. One of the things this council brought into effect 2 years ago when we came in office was accountability. As we are held accountable to the residents, we have this type of thing accountable to us. And without accountability, you have things running amok. And that's what's happened here. So I can only say to you, from what I'm getting from the consensus of the council here, these notifications and citations have been fair warning way ahead of time. It was up to you and your responsibility to tag this man and tell him, get out of my property. And that's up to you.
Okay, when I started talking earlier, I said I got properties in various communities. I have a situation like this in now than a few years ago. Now, they do have, and they did send an officer, and they did send, forgot the lady's name now, but, I mean, she came, she was working, she wasn't on city staff, because now they're very small, they hired some consultant and whatever, but she came out with an officer, made it very clear what the situation was, and that this thing had to stop like right now, and these, things had to be done, blah, blah, by the end of the week, and which I made the tenant do. And that was crystal clear, what had happened when you have the officer standing there, and you have the city staff standing there. I mean, it is not ambiguous what.
So you're saying that we should have a police officer go out with our staff to make a statement to your renter? That's your responsibility, not our responsibility.
It wasn't an outlet. Like I say, that's the issue. Every city does it different. That's why it's hard on my part to understand the program.
But you understand, sir, ignorance is not an excuse.
Okay.
I've lived with that for 68 years of my life. I made many mistakes in my life, but I've learned one thing: ignorance is not an excuse. I've heard that more than once, okay? So to me, you need to know the laws and ask questions. I've said multiple meetings in 2 years to people on this video, to this audience. If you want to know what goes on, you need a debt permit, you need any kind of permit, you need any information, call staff. Find out what you need to know before you get involved in a situation that becomes this large and hard to correct. That's, responsibility is on both sides of this coin. So I'm going to ask the council anymore. Does anyone on this council have any other thing to say about this issue here at all? Okay. I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else in the audience through this public hearing that wants to be heard, now is your time to get up and speak. If not, I will close this at... Okay. Please state your name and address. Speak into the mic, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Paul Blessing. I live at 23 Village 2, Ivywood Street, Compass, St. Francis.
Is that Ivywood you said?
Yeah.
It's the last one, I think, on that. It's the one right after what we just talked about, I think.
Okay. I'm good for that. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, actually, trouble is because my son, do, some money, 4 years, I actually we tried to, even tell him, to get out of the property, to make find their own property, and we clean up, and little while can last more, but we also have some tickets, like a side of the car, like have a tire on the grass, then vehicle without theft. I come to say we have all the thefts on the cars. So okay, I mean we just talk to city, and then we got same days and same ticket again, So, but it's finally we actually make him to move to rent, like own garage, to get this 4-wheelers. And we make pictures, again, not of course. There was every time we try to force him to clean up. There's my youngest son, and I don't know what to do. He's like 25, and I don't know. Like I said, maybe he's home doing something, but that's really bothering me. I'm working, come home, he left, take some 4-wheeler base, take them apart, then put together, they go to the door, they make, mess again, come back and take the parts. And, well, you can see right now, my wife sends pictures, they actually move lots of fruit. That's probably like from 10 to 15, 4 years, and that's just like, that was crazy, And I have lots of kids, I have 9 kids in my family. We live from December, and in St. Francis, so, even other kids, you know, if they have all one bike, you know, I mean, that's like a lot, you know. I hope you understand, I hope you guys in the council have at least like 5 kids. You probably more understand me how it's like working, you know. If you have 1, 2, maybe none, I don't know. So, and the other kids, you know, from my family, they don't like it when he do math, you know, I'm not like a mess, and like I said, he fakes it, drop it down, home then next day, you know, doing something else, then they get this together, but anyway, it's like, you know, when they do something, you fix it or not fix it, you know, you just get not keep it this non-stop, you know. And, I don't know, you guys, you know.
But
if
sir,
there is
this
something-
has been going on for quite a long time, and as I stated earlier, I mean, you have neighbors, okay, that are responsible with their properties. You have to be responsible with your properties. If you had 100 acres up in the tundra, you could do what you want, but you live in a city with neighbors around you, okay? I'm seeing stuff here from November 30th of 2017. I'm looking at pictures here. I mean, my God, besides the cars in the driveway, I mean, the backyard, I mean, with trash all over the place, it's like, I understand what you're saying here, but we have policies, okay? And when you get fined and all that, if you have a question or something like that, you come forward to the city, you lay out your thoughts and all that, and we tell you our policies. I mean, we're not out to fine people to make revenue for the city. We're trying to get revenue through growth, not through fining people, okay? This has been going on for a long time. You have responsibilities here of your household. I don't care if you have 20 kids living in the house. Not everyone needs a bike. If they have a bike, you can shelter the bike out of sight, out of mind. But I don't see that in these pictures. I just don't.
What about cars you said on the driveways?
Say that again?
What about cars you said on the driveway?
Well, it looks like to me you have like almost 8 vehicles on the driveway at any one time.
If you see how many kids I have, how many family, how many people live, you said you don't give a 20. So the 20 is going to be 20 cars. Okay, you understand that or not?
You have all these kids living in your house right now?
2 away, but I have 2 kids away. And I have only one who's not owning a car, you know, that's the only group right there. But every other kids, we have cars, okay? And my son he's have 2 cars, you know. So, you said you don't care, there's 20 cars.
And
Well, you know something, when I grew up in my mom's and dad's house, okay, and I became, after high school and I graduated, you know what my mom and dad told me? It's our house, you live under our rules. It wasn't the rules I made up, it was the rules they made up. And guess what? That's how I did it. And so you have rules in your house, you should tell your children to follow the rules. And I'm just gonna pass this on to the council now and discuss this.
Oh, I actually, I don't like what he's doing, you know, I mean, I said, clean up, finally, you know, we actually, he not even listen to me, you know. I mean, I'm trying to guys help him, I mean, not just help him, I don't know how to actually tell him to move to own place and make own mess, you know? That's
Well,
it.
besides the parking lot, sir, what about the back pictures of the back of the house? Between junk in the bag, bags lined up, and all the stuff that I'm seeing in these pictures that have been taken here? What about all this stuff? I mean, multiple bikes that don't even look like they work or whatever. If they do, I've got fences here, I've got pictures taken on March 21st of 2018. I've got more stuff in there. I mean, that can't be all kid-related. I mean, there is a responsibility as you as a landlord to keep your lot somewhat. I mean, again, you have neighbors, if you were on 25 acres and had some room around you, that's one thing. But you have neighbors on both sides of you. They have to look at this every day. They maintain their property. What do we do for them? We say, no, Pablo's got 9 kids. He can't do it, so we just let you go, and they have to put up a fence around them so they don't look at your stuff anymore? That's not fair to them. We have a bigger picture here.
I even hear, you probably not believe it, it's like all of his stuff. That's just something, you know, I mean, right here, it's all.
That is all your stuff?
No, that's not all my stuff, that's his stuff, I'm the only one. I don't own anything in the back, it's one person that owns all
So
that
that's all
stuff.
his stuff?
No, that's
He's
my
not
dad, he's not here.
His older brother.
He's an animal nothing, you know, I mean, like said, there are other kids, Daniel, he's not here, he's like, you know, that's his own stuff. I mean, you can see it, you have a latest picture. We finally moved, I mean, he's finally moved to the storage, And it's just probably like 1 or 2 4-wheeler left, but they are not like a not far, you know. And we will actually try to his actually final place and get this, you know, and not make it mess.
Well, how about when you tell them, if you're living in my house, 1 car, I can't have 8 cars in my driveway by city law, blah, 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 and you go on and follow the laws, I mean, the rules that we have in place. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't get you off the hook. That's the problem we're having here, because we have neighbors around you that aren't liking what we're seeing here. The city's laws are being not followed, and there's citations built up. And again, to get to these dollar amounts of $4,000 plus, you got cited more than once. So this could have been solved or talked to about this before. I mean, I just don't understand how you can sit there and let something go to this level and now come back and try for sympathy on our end when there's a broader picture here, as I stated before. If we let you go, what do we tell the neighbors next to you that we're sorry, he's got 9 kids, we just let this go? I don't think that's going to work. I'm going to turn this over again. Rob, I'll start with you. Please give me your son on your foot.
I grew up with a lot of kids, and in my family, we had a lot of cars. Looking at these pictures, these cars are in different, you know, parking spots in different pictures. The ones I have a problem with that are built up behind snowbanks, obviously not moving. If they're registered and they can move, and I got my fair share of parking my car where it shouldn't be parked.
How the car looks like, I mean, just in spirit.
Well, I have a picture that shows one that's snowbanked in. That means it's not moving. I love that all these cars in different pictures have been moved.
I'm assuming that's the one you're talking about.
Yep.
This one?
Yeah. So that car hasn't been moved. That's what I have a problem with.
Yeah, cool, but what's the problem, you know? I mean, we're driving right now this car, you know?
But it looks like an eyesore. Like I said, the trash is what I'm concerned about, behind the house
We
and.
definitely don't have a trash. If some, drop something to get something, you know, back, you know?
Here's trash right here. Here's trash right here. Here's trash right here.
And so,
It's your property, sir.
understand, he take those parts, he, you know, and he started from, like, you know, the kid from the bicycles, you know, I mean.
Like I was saying, looking at some of the pictures, I know you got a lot of cars. I live in the neighborhood. You got a lot of people that live there. These cars are always constantly rearranged in different orders. I know they run. I don't check for registration, but if they move, I assume they're registered. That is something that is important to other neighbors, having that many cars. But I can see that they move a lot. Keep the snow plowed around the cars that are legal and clean the trash up. But I do have a problem waiving the fines. This should have been taken care of at the $100 range. And all you have to do is start showing progress. Once they come out and inspect, you don't have to do it in one day. You probably don't even have to do it in a couple of months. But if they come out and inspect and you show progress and you actually meet with the city and take them around and show that this stuff is being moved and there's progress, these fines wouldn't have built up. I can almost guarantee it.
I show them progress and said, okay, and then they repeat again, this cars, you know, I mean, on the rest, same picture, you know, instead of no tabs, I said, I have a tab on the vehicle register, you know, and it's just repeat, and it's just on a bigger bowl, you know, that's like a.
That's all I have.
Joe, please.
Question for Kate and maybe Dave here. The fine schedule that I see, one was on the 7th of March, I believe it was. The other was on the 14th. Yeah, that's not quite 10 days. Is that something that is an issue or not?
Mayor, Council, with our fine schedule, the code reads up to 20 days. If that answers your question.
Yeah, pretty much. And the only other thing I say, and I understand having a lot of kids can be a lot of, I got 2 kids and that's hard enough for me. I know somebody that actually lives in Gary's neighborhood that has 10 kids, and they don't have issues even close to that. A lot of that comes down to how you handle it, and I don't necessarily see that as an excuse. You have a 3-car garage, so I don't know what's in the garage, if it's full of stuff with storage or whatever, but to me, I know if my kid starts bringing a bunch of stuff home, it's going right in the trash immediately. I mean, I'm not gonna store your garbage, that's just my opinion. That's how I would handle it, and I would handle it differently. So I don't know what to say, I guess. I mean, if you get the violations, I think, the black and white pictures that I see here, it looks very clean, it looks very nice, which is great, and I hope you keep it that way. Other than that, what's that?
How old are your kids?
15 and 13.
Yeah, that's probably can throw it in the trash.
They're not driving yet, I get it, but I don't know what to say, man. I don't know. I mean, you gotta keep the trash cleaned up. It's more, to me, I think it goes back to something Rich said a while back about a different situation where it's just being a good neighbor, taking care of your stuff and all that stuff. But I don't really have anything else to add.
All right. Jerry?
I'm not really concerned about the cars. It's my understanding that as long as the vehicles are operable and as long as they're registered and parked where they're supposed to be, you don't get cited for that. Am I correct on that?
Mayor and Council, that is correct.
Okay, so whether you have 9 cars or 20 cars, if you have enough room to park them there and they're all registered and not up on blocks and, as long as they're drivable, that's not an issue. So that's not why you were getting cited for is the vehicles. I think you got a little sidetracked. Now, that said, you do have some vehicles parked where they're not supposed to be. And that is where I think that the issue with the vehicles came from. As long as they're parked in your driveway or an approved parking surface, pavers or class 5 or, however that's defined in our code, that's perfectly acceptable. But, pulling them next to a shed or the garage in the backyard or something like that, that wouldn't be acceptable. So that's where I think the issue comes from with the vehicles. The other stuff that, I mean, there is, a lot of stuff. I'm not going to call it junk because, one man's junk is another person's, treasure. And my wife accused me of keeping all kinds of stuff. Get rid of that. I'm like, no, that's usable stuff. Yeah. It does have to be, kept in an orderly fashion, and I don't think you would disagree with me with that, if it was inside a shed or if you maybe had a fenced-in area that would block the sight of everything, that'd be a different story, or maybe even if you rented a storage unit to put some of this stuff in if you didn't want to get rid of it, that's perfectly acceptable. But the way it is now with some of the pictures that I saw, it does look like it's, it looks really messy. And you do have neighbors very close on both sides of your property there. So I'm not worried like what Rob was, I'm not worried about the cars, except the ones that are parked where they're not supposed to be. But other than that, this is exactly why we have this administrative process, and we send you a letter to let you know, hey, there's a problem with this, and we got to get it taken care of, and it's been ongoing for this couple of years as well. So, that's why you're here today.
Yeah, you're right. There was one time car was parked when it was snowstorm, we parked in the grass. I mean, which is not grass, which is snow.
Right. Yeah, that's not any better.
Yeah. That was in winter time, and because we got to go to work, and then this car was like, actually not we drive this car, was bothering us, if we wanted just on the side. But about stuff, yeah, that you're right, because that stuff, not belongs to me. I will give a storage and keep, just put full of storage. And right now, you get rid of it, some get rid of just, sell for pennies, just to get rid of, because every little kid start going, that's, we cannot even go to the yard, to have fun or sit, make a backyard fire, because it's all the parts of, but right now you can see I don't know, we might want to take a picture, but right now it's not in there, But some are still in the storage, but I wish they gonna move soon, Then you guys can come and say, it's not in there.
No, I feel for you. When I was younger, I was always buying and selling cars and swapping motors and when it got to be a problem, then my dad brought home a flatbed trailer and he says, hey, this stuff has got to go to Maxie's and we got to recycle this stuff, so I feel for you. I've been there, and I've got 3 kids myself, and I've been a kid, and I've been that way, so I understand your plight. But I think at this point in the juncture, it's difficult to let you slide and then not let somebody else slide as well. Just in the interest of being fair to everybody, I think that's going to be really hard.
I said right now, you move, it's nothing there. It's probably 2 4-wheelers, but and in the process that's clean right now, it's like 99%, which is was before, which is, because it's 2 4-wheelers still there. But kids even cannot believe it, it's already up.
Right, but sir, understand something here. This, like the gentleman before, you're the landlord, you're the owner of the house. The responsibility doesn't come to the children, it comes to you. And if we were to slack this, what's the guarantee it won't happen again? And we're right back here doing the same thing. That doesn't send out the message to that's no relief from your, as Jerry said, your neighbors. You have neighbors around you that see this every day. They want some, remediation, a remedy to this problem too, and they don't see it. I feel for you 100%. But at the same time, it's your house, your rules. You tell your son or whatever, this has got to stop, get out, or I don't care how you got to do it, but you got to do something here. I'm gonna turn this over to Rich if you're done, Jerry. Are you done?
Well, I just have one. I'm glad to hear that it's all cleaned up now, and what that means, on the bright side is you won't get fined anymore going forward, as long as it, you just keep it clean and stuff like that. So, there is a bright side. If anything, by having this administrative process that, hopefully you can put this behind you now. So that'll be a great thing.
This stuff not gonna come back. He read the garage, he take it away, and it's not like, he can, like I said, I wish he didn't find an apartment or some mobile home and live over there, and he's a old mess, because this kid, my oldest son, he had nothing. He actually not even really wanted to fix something. He's I'm driving, he's a cook. He just cook for other people, And other kids, they just don't have it, not even not one bicycle, Like I said, if even one of them have, each of them bicycle, that's like
I think every parent shares your sentiment that at some point they just want their kids to move out.
I wish him luck, wish him he got to a place, When I said he have to clean up, he's actually, honestly, he got mad on city, because, that city, made me to tell him, he's not like a polite like those guys, he just, I don't know why he's.
How old is this son of yours that's doing this?
25.
25, and he still lives at home. Okay. Jerry, are you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Thank you. Rich, please.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if I have too much else to add. As I look through the pictures, and it looks like the story started years ago. I guess we have a comment from staff that we've had enforcement issues going all the way back to 2012. I am not in the move to send a message out to folks that, you know, they can let their yards get like this and treat their neighbors like this, rack up some fines, and then, yeah, someday they get around and clean it up, and the fines don't matter. No, that's not the right answer. As the mayor mentioned, I mean, we're trying to govern for the whole city. And it's a shame that your son put you in this position, but, I mean, there's gotta be some method for us to try to encourage folks to not let this happen. If you were a neighbor, you would not wanna look at this every day. The way some of the pictures I see.
Because I don't care, I'm not looking at neighbors when they're doing it, that's own business, but what they do in the yard.
Yeah, I know, but looking from the standpoint of,
That's,
I mean, everybody has taken this from the standpoint of property
my
value.
yard is more bothering me, you know, what he's doing, you know, because I wanna clean yard too, I wanna, you know, kids come and play, we have a jumper before on the backyard, before he start, you know, kind of, let's keep it home, you know, not get a bad company, go somewhere, you know, let's just stay home. That's how she hooked him, right now she understands too, you know, it's time to actually move and find a place, but
It's put you in a very tough position, I understand. You know, it looks like this was something that went on for far too long, and I'm glad steps are being taken to remedy it, but, I mean, we've been trying to work, you know, with you, and then you, trying to work with your son for, you know, the better part of the first half of this year. That's the process we have, and I don't want to deviate from it. I mean, to me, this property looks like it got to one of those that is one of my pet peeves, where, you know, it's not being a good neighbor. And I'm glad you've been able to work with your son and take responsibility and clean it up, but the fact of the matter is, you know.
I actually did lots of work on this property. I planted tree, you know, rocks, you know, backyard escape, you know, blocks. It's lots of work in there, you know.
No, I understand, but then I
It's not
also
like
see
a
that.
left building, you know, like from just a sand, you know, we have to plant the grass, you know, I mean, we do lots of work, I mean, that's fun. I should probably do like everybody else, you know, no rocks, no white rocks, because it costs money, nothing like, you know, just side asphalt, you know, and nothing else, grass, you know.
Rich, are you done?
No, I don't have anything else.
I just want to say to you, sir, you know, it's nice that you're keeping up your property. Sounds like you would enjoy your property a lot more if your older son wasn't involved in your house, okay? So I feel for you on that, but again, you're the landlord of your house. And even though you don't look at your other neighbors, the neighbors look at you. You don't live, again, as I stated before, 100 acres up in the tundra. If you did that, you could do whatever you want. If you ever watch a show Life Below Zero, you could live up by the Arctic Circle and do whatever you want, but you can't here, okay? You have neighbors, and there's a responsibility in the neighborhood. All neighbors should work together, and you're not doing that. So if your son is a problem at 25 years old, I would almost consider giving him an eviction notice is what I would do, but that's up to you. But I'm just saying to you at this point, that's your eyesore and it has to be corrected. This has gone on far too long, and now at this point, we have no course of action except to go with what our policies are in place. My advice to you is, get with your son and tell him how it really works in the real world, and move on with his life and make your house livable for you. And this problem won't come before us again. That's what I hope. I feel for you, I have empathy for you, but I hope you understand what our situation is. We have other residents besides you, 7,499 other residents in this town we have to deal with. And if we start a precedent here, if people like Rich just said, if we say that you corrected this and we let you off, and then it comes back and if it happens again, we look like fools. On top of that, what is other people going to say? Well, don't worry about it, the council just waive it, it's not a big deal. Just let the fines go up, the council will waive it. That's not going to happen, because accountability has to be involved. You're not accountable now when you're letting your son run your house. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. So at this particular point, is there any other conversation on this?
I've got nothing to do, Your Honor.
Nobody? No? All right. I want to thank you for your time. Any other one for the open hearing here, please? Anyone?
Letter?
Can I see that again? state your name and address, right, please?
My name is Raymond Jones. I reside at 23725 Nagler Street. I am here to appeal on this stormwater fee that's being assessed. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here and maybe even be able to talk longer than 5 minutes. Not that I want to. But I think that this council is unfortunate that it got into the position where they have this way that it is written up. Why do I say that? Because there's communities around us that never went this way. Nowland, Oak Grove, East Bethel. And I say, why did they go with this method that you got? I happen to live in farm ground that here in your own statement. The MS4 general permit is designed to reduce the amount of sediment pollution that enters surface and groundwater from storm sewer systems to maintain extent practical stormwater discharge associated with the MSS4 subject to regulation under the National Pollution Discharge System. All right, so then jumps this owner or operator required to develop stormwater pollution thing. Where did they come into where you have a farm ground that's farming? I have 36 acres over here on County Road 71. It's light soil. We've had this year over 2.5 inch rains. We've had 1 week and about 2 days besides of rain, and it never stopped. It rained every day. And where'd my water go? Right in the ground. It doesn't run off. This program was designed for where it is in the city part, or where you got paved streets, gutters, buildings that are on it. I don't have a building on it. No blacktop, no concrete, impervious soil. Okay? All I got is soil to take the water. So why am I being assessed a fee for that? I would like to have you people do a change on this program. How many people are in the town that have to pay it because they're on this pavement, gutters, lawn? How many are sitting out here in a more rural area of the city? We're 12 miles long, 2 miles roughly wide. And it hurts me to see too that these people are having to pay it. I've talked to a lot of them. I've got a gal right next to my land. She just moved out of Becker. Never had to pay it in the city of Becker. No, she says, I've never had to have my land. Here I am out here now trying to get rid of the gophers out of my hayfield. She says, it rained, no water runs off. Doesn't go there, doesn't pick it up. So, I don't know what you people think about it, but something should be done to change it. I have a lot of people that I've talked to, and they have talked to me about helping them see and do something. So I am just coming here to be a spokesman for them. And I would like to see more people come. Then the next thing is, I have to take the Anoka Union paper, and I find here that you run an ad in there, I call it an ad in the public, and it says that you could come here on the 28th, or not the 28th, but on the 5th. And it was put in the paper on the 28th. Why wasn't that notice put in the fall newsletter? More people would have got it. They read it. Other people that don't get that and got no reason that should come. But I think that a failure to do that, because by that time it's too late. And you only got about 11% of the people in St. Francis even taking the Anoka Union paper.
That was a notification for what, Ray?
Pardon?
What was the notification for?
For the public hearing.
It's a public hearing.
It has to be.
Okay.
And I take also the Star News out of Elk River. And after years, I've taken it ever since the Union lived here. And so I watch both, I watch the foreclosures that are happening here in this town. I don't know.
Well, let me just say to you, Ray, are you finished on your end? Are
Pardon?
you have more to say?
Oh, I think I probably about done. I've got some papers here I'd like to leave. I did my, what do you call it, papers and, didn't want to leave it, but everywhere where you have brought it in here, that it leads to where the residential people are, not out in the rural area of your city. I know in the first
I
meeting,
want to give you some facts here I have.
it was stated, I asked, what are you gonna do with the money?
Well, Ray, let me just answer. Last year you came to me with the document from Elk River, okay? And I called Elk River and I called you back about that.
I
told
got
you.
a copy of their Elk River one where it says, right, strictly in their ordinance, the land is not taxed or.
No, that's not true. I talked to the gentleman in charge of it. He told me
Well,
that unless you got something new that I don't know about.
It might not be taxed, but they might still.
I got it from.
Stormwater.
But I'm talking about MS4.
Yeah.
What Elk River told me, they don't discriminate between rural and urban. It's all blanketed all over. And again, as we told you before, this is a federal law that came down the state and the county. What should be done is if residents want to say something, you need to talk to the right legislatures on this. You could, by the way, I would even open the door up to this. If you want to get a petition together, have your people that you're talking about sign it, I would be more than glad to send it to the legislative level. I can't tell you that will do anything or won't do anything, but it's a try. I don't like it any more than you do, but what I'm telling you is it's for populations of 10,000 or at least 5,000 that discharge out to an outstanding resource value water, which we do through the Sealy Brook tributary off the Rum River. Now and Then does not do that, East Bethel does not do that, and neither does Oak Road do that. That's the problem. And I'm sorry that we live in a situation where we have a wastewater treatment facility and we discharge into that outstanding resource water. But according to Elk River and cities like them, they don't discriminate. Now, we have not raised rates in the last 3 years, we've kept them flat, but I don't like it any more than you do. But I've tried to talk to the legislature about it. It doesn't work right now. Maybe if you can give me some signatures on a petition, I'd be more than glad to pass it on to our people at the state level to see what we can do. And I've told you before, and I've talked to you many times about this, show me a law around Iowa or North Dakota or any other place that exempts agricultural property, show it to us. I don't see it. And my hands are tied, this council's hands are tied. We don't, look, I don't understand why people think we just love to charge people, fine people, make more money. That's not how it works here, at all.
Well, I sent back in about February of 2017 to Regional 5 in Chicago. And I got an answer back. My answer back is basically this thing here that you guys printed, that they told me that you go back to your city. He wouldn't even tell me anything else. But I said, yeah, I could do that. And I did do it here, I think, this year. I was in here once. But, I don't know. I find it.
By the way, I have 36 acres. How much do you pay on the MS4 for the 36 acres?
Pardon?
On your 36 acres that you mentioned,
I pay $60 is what you want me to pay.
$60 on 36 acres.
Yeah, they got 30 acres I pay.
And I pay $60 on a city lot.
And on top of that, I don't have a living quarter, so I pay higher taxes on my farmland than on the farmer's land. That's not, no problem.
You know,
I was on the council when we
And,
passed this.
the neighbor's got 80 acres right next to me. There's a house that's sitting there on a 2.5. I got a grandson that's sitting on 2.5 acres. And where does the water go? Stays on his property.
You know, Mr. Mayor.
Well, okay, just raise your
I
hand.
think, my personal opinion is, I think it was bold and mixed, that this was the easiest way to do it.
Well,
But I think
Mr.
it
Jones
wasn't.
is-
because
Because my other cities just all of a sudden said, hey, we're just gonna appropriate enough money to take care of it, and that's it. Also, you people just not long ago, you took $1,400,000 out of your fund and put it into the road fund. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How long did it take to do that? Not long. You don't have to send out notices to people like me that haven't paid it on time, or paid it period.
You're comparing the road fund to MS4?
And that's for it.
That's not the same thing, Ray. The road, there was we were guided by finance to go down to a certain amount of money in our fund. We had over amount of money. The road fund is a good fund because it's taking care of assessments, which alleviates assessments, which is another form of tax. But that's a whole different ballgame. Rich, please say what you're gonna say because you're part of that council back then.
Yeah, so and I think what Mr. Jones said is probably true. If he contacted someone from the federal government, they would probably tell you, go talk to your city, because the requirement is for the city to comply. And it's up to the city as to how.
And I
Ray,
don't
can I finish?
have a
Ray, can I finish?
creek or a river running through my property.
All right, well, then, I'm done. I was gonna try to explain what we did. If you don't wanna hear it, that's fine. I was gonna try to explain our rationale back when we first did this.
I'll leave my papers, I'll get it back.
Rick?
You know, Ray,
Rich.
You can try.
I'm actually in the water and wastewater field. I mean, that's what I do for a living now. And going to school, you know, although you said you have farmland, it doesn't mean you also don't have stormwater runoff. In fact, studies have shown that farmland is actually one of the highest polluters out there. That's why they're requiring more buffer areas, like drain tile that would run through a farmer's field. What that does, it directly conveys that water on the farmer's field after it's picked up phosphorus and, you know, weed killers from 2,4-D and stuff like that you would spray down your Roundup. And it directly conveys that right into a water source. It could be groundwater, or it could be river water, it could be a creek, but a water source is a water source. I mean, there's surface water or there's groundwater. That's the only two water sources. And that rainwater goes to one of those two sources, either your groundwater or surface water. So, you know, although you just have agricultural land, it doesn't mean that there's no contaminants on that land that need to be controlled and mitigated or tried to alleviate and managed where they go. And that's what this MS4 is. In fact, you know, up in Stearns County along the Mississippi River, it's notoriously high for phosphorus levels. I mean, huge. And that's all agricultural. I mean, it is. And there's not a lot of building there, but it's got some of the highest pollutant levels, you know, for that stretch. And that's north of us. And, you know, logically you would think the closer you get to the headwaters of the water sources should be the cleanest. And it seems, you know, the farther you go up the Mississippi River, until you hit St. Cloud and stuff like that, it gets dirtier. So the idea that just because you have farmlands doesn't mean that the stormwater doesn't need to be managed is kind of a misconception. I don't know if you have drain tile, but
There is a drain tile.
well, but then that means that you're getting water infiltrated into the ground. There is some ditches out there because, I mean, there has to be. There's drainage ditches and culverts going underneath roads and stuff. And part of the reason why we try to manage that and put water into holding ponds is so it can go through with the idea that the ground can try to filter out some of that contaminants. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't, because we're finding a lot of stuff in our aquifers that, you know, man-made chemicals that's not naturally producing. You know, so I understand your plight, but just the fact that you have farmland doesn't mean that you don't have stormwater runoff and there aren't contaminants that need to be controlled. I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I could come to you later, I'll show you you're wrong. The city of Des Moines sued 3 different districts for water districts and lost them, every one of them, because they wanted $800,000 to clean their water. And it was ruled that what was in that ground was not from those water districts.
And that could be in the city of Iowa. All I know is I've gone to school for the Sacramento State Office of Water Programs. I've taken courses through there. I've been to the St. Cloud Water Program. I actually conduct, you know, I work for the city of Minneapolis, and we take our water from the Mississippi River, and there are contaminants in that water from the Mississippi River that are not man-made. It's what it is.
Well, I just think you've made a lot of mess with a lot of people that are out there that are yelling about it to me. Why you went that way, because it's been simpler just to say, hey, we need $200,000 to do our program, and wrote it off just like they did the road now that you're doing. And that's an old program, that was started out in St. Louis Park.
But, I mean, if I could play devil's advocate, then
Well,
what we would do is we would raise a general
somebody
levy.
had to print these letters and put them to me and send
Okay,
them.
what we would do is we would just raise a general levy and do a funds transfer over into an MS4 fund. But then we would have, you know, just as many people coming in here saying, well, you know, I've got a big house and I'm
I
getting
guess
hit.
will do my work.
Here,
I'm not
Ray,
gonna pay mine.
Here,
And the reason I'm not gonna pay it is I'm gonna be able to use it next year, hopefully get people on this council that wake up and say there's better ways of doing it than the way you're doing it.
But Ray, our hands are tied by the law. I told you before, if you get a petition together, I will put it to the right people and get it going. I can't guarantee anything like that. But you're telling me here that if you don't get this done, you're gonna do this and do that, and you're comparing this to a road fund? The road fund was put in place and should have been put in years ago, which wasn't. The mistakes in the city over the years are run abundant for things that weren't done that should have been done. And I'll tell you, the road fund, by doing that road fund, a section out the city, allows us to back assess properties in the thousands of dollars. So where we make one person happy, we make somebody else not happy. Progress is a double-edged sword. Some will like it, some won't. But like I'm telling you on the MS4, that's the federal government down to the state level, down to the county level, down to us. We're the bottom of the line, and we're the ones who appropriate it, and we get the ones that get all the negative feedback. If you want us to work, if you want to work with us, work with us. Get us a petition. I told you that before. Get names. Names mean something. A group of people means something. One person is not enough. Get us a group of things. I will pass it on to the right people, and I can't guarantee you a change in the law. But you're punishing 5 people up here for something we had no control over. That's what you're doing, and that's what's wrong.
Mr. Mayor, if I could finish.
Well, in my personal opinion, that it should be, the federal government should, that there's a piece of ground that they should tax or put a fee on it, if it's 1/1 millionth of a cent, it ends up on everybody's tax.
Well, tomorrow's an election day. There's one way to have your voice heard, in an election day.
Rather than doing what they've done and not make a lot of people happy.
I agree with that. Jerry, do you want to
And I'm
continue?
one of the ones that's not very happy.
Yeah, you know, and the last thing I just wanted to say.
I've changed my
Ray?
farming operation from Baldwin Pond to no-till pond and absorbing more water in my ground and holding it.
Ray, I understand that. However, the last thing I wanted to say was, to me, there's no fairer way than everybody orders, that owns a parcel pays the same amount. If we would put it on a general levy, like what you would say, there would be some people that get charged more and some people that would get charged less, depending on the value of the property. And you might get charged more since you own a lot more property. It could work out that way. You know, and you were on the council, you know, a lot of these challenges that we're having now is the same challenges that you've had. And you know that the city doesn't have a newspaper. So, in fact, I think you were one of the ones that voted to put the public notices into the Anoka County Union because that's what we had at the time. You know, and so some of these arguments aren't new arguments, and you're familiar with them. So I think it's kind of unfair for you to come up and say kind of some of the things that you're saying now when it's stuff that you have actually advocated for in the past.
I don't have to go a half a mile north, you know, when I'm in Isani County, and the water runs south. So where's it coming from?
But understand something.
North of them, yeah, too.
You're paying $60 on 36 acres, that's less than $2 an acre. And the fact is that we counted your 36 acres as one parcel, $60. We're not going $60 per acre or $60 per quarter of an acre. We're going, as a city lot size is, we're going 60 acres, $60 on one whole section of a parcel. 36 acres, $60. Okay, we're trying to do the best we can with a law that was shoved down us at the federal level. Do I like it? Does this council like it? No, it doesn't. We're the ones, they trickle it down, we're the ones who have to put it into effect. And we're the ones who have to live with all the negative and positive attitudes out there that happen. I'm telling you again, get a petition together, I will pass it on to the right people, and hopefully some change will happen. But that's how it starts, Ray. We are only 5 people. It's like people come to me and tell me, can't you do something about the school district? I'm one resident. That's all I am.
but give me a petition, I have a little more clout, I'll try to do what I can for you. I said that to you before, well, more than one time.
Well, I'll live with it, but I'm going after you.
Well, go after the feds, that would be a good thing.
My feds, when I called into Chicago, I got an answer that Michael sent me a postcard. Yeah. Just go back to your city council.
Right, but the law was passed down from them, all they're doing is passing the buck down back to us.
That's right.
That's what they do, that's what they do.
But I just said, why isn't everybody in on it if you're gonna have it?
I agree.
But I just thought it was a.
And by the way, just to let you know,
Other
there's 264 cities in the state of Minnesota that are affected by the MS4, 264 cities. If you could get the whole state behind them and would petition on that, maybe you'd have some clout, but then there's 49 other states too. I mean, it's a big problem. What I've learned in governing all that in my life, you gotta pick the battles you can win, not the ones you can't.
Well, I can tell you this much. According to the Clean Water Act, if I had 120 acres in the one chunk out there, on my ground out there, I put in a well and a sprinkler system. You could try to get it from me, but you couldn't because under the act, you can't do it. So what do I want to do? Get the neighbor to put a garden hose out there and put a little sprinkler and tell him I got a sprinkler system on it? No,
Well,
I mean, but this
we
is what
know things in this government and today in this world are dictated more by the financial gains than anything else. And that's a sad thing, instead of what's right versus what is profitable. That's a sad thing. Like I say again, you're going after a battle, Ray, that we don't have any control over. I wish we did. I wish we could just say no, but if we're not in compliance, then we get tagged as a city. So we're in a rock and a hard place. You're judging us in a way that you think it's our fault this happened. It didn't happen from us. Well, the only thing we did wrong is instead of putting out an explanation first, we billed people first. I always felt that was wrong.
Well, all I can say is I'll keep working to see if I can't get you to change it over to a simpler system. Because I think it's any money that you spend sending out cards or letters to me, and the time of that person who has been well worth to just passed a lot of this or ordinance that said we're going to just take out this much money and put it in the fund for stormwater, and that ended it. And then you revise it every year and do it. That's what you're going to end up doing in your street department. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate your time on that. All right, on that, anybody else for the open hearing part of this meeting? If not, I will close the open meeting at 7:33. Moving on to new business. Ordinance 243, second series, approving the sale of city-owned real estate, second reading.
We do have the resolution 2018-38 for the certification of all the.
Oh, do I have to do that one first?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a resolution, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Okay. Do I have to, does that resolution have to be passed, in other words, for this public hearing to be adopted or whatever, is that what you're talking about?
To include pertinent special assessments.
Oh, okay. All right, well, in that case, then corrected here. Certifying assessments for delinquent utilities, miscellaneous invoices, and administrative fines, resolution 2018-38. Do I have a motion to adopt?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Mr. Debate makes that motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Brown makes a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I guess I have a couple of questions. I just want to make sure I understand. So as I flip through the packet, there's at least, and you have to forgive me, my phone is up today. There's at least one in here who the folks did not come into the public hearing, right? They wanted to appeal their fine, correct? And so is it up to us if we want
for that did not show up?
Yeah. Okay, so is it up to us to just
Discuss it.
either choose to discuss them or not as part of passing the overall resolution?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, then, in that case, so you want to discuss something?
These people took the time to appeal. I think we ought to at least discuss what they had to say. I mean, just because they're not here doesn't mean.
Well, that's a very good point, Rich, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
I mean, granted, I would like to get home as well, but
No.
I think we ought to start with the first one
and just work our way through. I think 4136 would be the first one that did not podium.
All right, and I have some information on that one, if you want me to say something, okay, on that one? So let me just get to that, okay, so I understand where we're at. Bear with me a second, if I get to it. I don't think it's even, it's in the packet, but not on, is it part of the packet of pictures or whatever? It's in there?
Yes, Mayor and Council, it should be the first.
Yeah, I got it,
Yep.
okay, I got it. All right. What this is a letter was sent to us about a deck that was built in 2017. This gentleman said in the letter that he had, this was his first home and he did not know. As you recall, I've said this more than once in multiple meetings. If you don't know before you break ground on something or before you start a deck or something, call City Hall, find out if you need a permit. Basically, state law says that you need a permit for basically everything, but this gentleman did not know that. So anyways, as this moves on here, I checked with our building official today, and this gentleman said he built the deck in 2017, yet the permits are still at the City Hall that have not been picked up in the last 6 months. So how he started to build a deck without the permit is beyond me to begin with. Also, what I found out was he brought an evaluation in. Let me see what I have here. He brought an evaluation in that, I want to get that up here. Bear with me 1 second because I got it in front of the screen here. He brought evaluation in here, and he said that the deck was valued at $3,500. Our building official looked it over and actually downgraded it to $2,400. He dropped to $1,100 for the evaluation. And there is no flat fee for building a deck. It's based on square footage and evaluation, so it has to go through the process. This gentleman sent me a letter stating that in the letter he was sending me a check of $50. There was no check in the envelope that I got from this letter. Also, in this letter, and I want to get back to it, just bear with me again. Here, it states here that he said here, this is my first home. I was unintentionally not compliant. The city official politely came to my home, and our building official did come to his house and informed me that I needed to submit a building plan and permit. I submitted a building plan permit application in order to check the city of St. Francis for the permit, which was not received. It was a few months until I heard from the city of St. Francis again. The documents and check I sent to the city was either lost or I possibly wrote an incorrect address. I do not know. At the request of the city, I submitted another permit application and building plan concerning the deck through the city website. To date, I have not paid the permit fee. Then he goes on and talks about some of his situation in his household and that. And then he says here at the end that he sent $50 in the letter, which he did not. He goes on about his military record and goes on about some other problems he's had and all that. And I can assure you, as after talking to his building official and our community development director, had he come forward when this fine was at about $100, this would not have gotten to this level. He did not come forward. I question the fact that he had a permit, valuation of $3,500 in his mind, yet he couldn't afford, basically, and by the way, just to let you know, the permit, actually, the actual deck permit was only for $216.28. So he valued it at $3,500. Our building official, again, downgraded that, priced that to $2,400. Yet he's telling me he has a hard time making mortgage payments, but you could afford $3,000 in material to build this deck, and you couldn't pay a $216.28 permit fee. He went along and built the permit set the deck in 17, although he was did not have the permits, which are still in the city hall. Correct me if I'm wrong. To date, he built the shed and that. And the shed, by the way, was valued at $4,000, which surprises me there for a 200 square foot shed. But my point being is this: what I don't understand with this gentleman, after talking to again our building official and community development director, had he come in when it was $100, it would have never got to this point. Had he called first to find out if he needed a permit to begin with, he wouldn't have been to this point. How this got to be $1,800 to me, I believe what happened here, and this is just my opinion, he built a deck, he didn't want to pull a permit, he didn't get away with it, and now he got caught. And that's my opinion, just my personal opinion. Whether this council takes it in their own way or light, that's up to them. But I see to myself as how anyone could think you don't have to pull a permit for a structural situation that could endanger people's lives is wrong to begin with. but once again, by state law, it pretty much, in any code class I go to in the state, you have to have a permit for everything, between putting a software in, a water heater in, anything. So, ignorance is not an excuse. This man got this far. I feel for him in his everyday life and all that. But at the same time, we all have our situations in our life. I just wanted to put this out as fast as I know as of today. But once again, it was only a $216 permit that got those up to an $1,800 fines and citation by his lack of judgment. I'm going to give this out to Rich to start any discussion on this if you wish.
No, in my mind, I think it's pretty straightforward. I would let it stand.
Thank you, Rich. Joe, Robert?
Yeah, I kinda, it's the same thing, if he'd did a permit earlier, it wouldn't have came to this, so.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, Joe?
And it still hasn't been paid to this day as far as we know.
No.
Correct, the permit has not been fulfilled.
I have nothing to add.
Jerry?
It says it here that he enclosed the check, but when he opened up the envelope, there was no check.
No.
I'm no mathematician, but when you balance your checkbook and you see that there's an outstanding check that's written that hasn't been cashed, and you know, a year goes by, I would assume that it got lost somewhere, and you would follow up on that. I also, since he requested an appeal, I kind of wondering why they're not here today, because this is important. This is where we make the appeal process. You know, so I'm kind of the opinion, if it's not important enough for him to show up and actually plead his case, then the only information we really have to go by is from the city's perspective. And from the city's perspective, I stand by our administrative process, and if this is what it is, it's what it is. Without an opposing case, that's the only thing I have to listen to, so.
Thank you, Jerry, and I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Like I say again, this, and by the way, sending a $50 check in really doesn't do anything, because again, it's based on an evaluation, and it goes by square footage. So as his was a $3,500, he evaluated it, by the way, the document I got from our city hall today, emailed to me, was that he valued it at $3,500. So if you take the square footage and all that, how we thought a $50 permit fee was going to handle it was not there to begin with. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I did really assume, in my own opinion, that this man was going to show up for this.
Yeah.
Was surprised that I did not find a check in the envelope to begin with. So did he really send the documents in the beginning back in 17 to the right place? I don't know. But if, like you say, as time goes by and you don't see a check cashed or whatever, you might want to call up and say something, whatever. But you don't start a building a deck without having a permit. You get a permit, you get a card, you're supposed to post it where the city can see it in a window, so when you drive by, they can see it. It's all there, all the information is there right in front of you. Once again, ignorance is not an excuse. So I would have to say, it sounds like the council agrees that this is a done deal. So, moving on, Rich, do we want to go with another one? Anybody else?
Go to the next one in the packet. That's the one in the packet. They shown them in front of us. So that's the very next one.
23040 Butterfield Drive, and just, I don't know if these are extenuating circumstances or not, but total fines due for this particular one, I believe, is $10,000. And in their cover letter, they kind of outline their situation.
Is this not the one with the deck, that with the meter problem, that they can't read meters because the deck is so unstructurally sound? Okay.
Mayor and Council, that is correct. This one, we were unable to verify when we went out last week and got pictures whether that deck had been removed or not with the process we have for code enforcement. So if it has been removed, they have not notified of this. However, there is an unsafe structure that has been tagged by the building official, and it doesn't affect meter reading.
Okay, Jerry, you want to start with this one?
You know, again, I can just reiterate the same thing, what I said about the previous property with this property. You know, it's kind of frustrating that they're not here today. I think this is fairly straightforward. If you have an unsafe structure, it's all it's going to take is for our meter reader to walk up there, and all of a sudden the deck's going to fall through, and also we're on the hook for a work comp claim as well.
Yeah.
You know, this is it could be extremely costly to the city. You know, so I think this is important to take care of. But if I could make a suggestion, maybe in the future when we do these, could we maybe have the properties in each individual tab? So it's a lot easier, you can just click on the tab. Otherwise, we're scrolling through like 20 pages per property, and it would be a lot easier, just. Yeah, I think this is fairly cut and dry in my mind. The pictures, you can really see that the deck is not sitting level. It really looks like it has settled in some spots, and it.
And by the way, if you look at page, in the packet, 91 of 226 pages, you'll see tires in the back of the garage, I believe it is, or shed, or whatever he's got there. Fact is, we have a wonderful recycle program, wonderful. You can also, I was just told this last year, that you can call up mosquito control, and if they don't have rims on it, they will take the tires free of charge. So, once again, it's just a matter of making a call to the city hall and find that information out. So, but as I look at the pictures, by the way, and once again, I have to emphasize this as we sit through this whole open hearing. There's neighbors around these people. You know, we have a responsibility to them as well as to this person to listen to their grievance in that. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to those people who are obeying our policies in that, and they want to keep their properties looking good. And you have this eyesore next to them, and then what do they think? So it's a double-edged sword for us. But at the same time, I would agree that, as stated before by Mr. Debate, that if you really are concerned about this and you want a chance of getting it taken off your books, you might want to show up here and talk to us. That might be a bad idea. So, Jerry, is that enough?
Yeah, there was and maybe that's something we should try to reiterate in the future. I know you were talking about recycle, and it's something that maybe I wish I would have mentioned to some people. Recycle days would have been a great opportunity to get rid of a lot of the stuff to mitigate. Scrap steel, tires, garbage.
Doesn't mean they would utilize it.
Well, just give them the information.
Well, we do send information on our recycle through the mailings. I know I can. So,
you're exactly right.
we just had one for shredding and stuff like this. So it's out there. I mean, once again, ignorance is not an excuse. You have to, if you don't know the answer, you got to find out the source. And a simple phone call to City Hall is an easy source to begin with.
I 100% agree with you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jerry. Joe?
I don't have anything to add to this.
Rob?
Well, I was looking at the violations, and I guess I'm a little unclear on how the fines start accumulating to the 10 grand mark. I have parking on unapproved surface, $100 fine, unlicensed vehicle, $100 fine, junk storage, $100 fine, removal of brush, $100 fine, storage building materials improperly, $100. At some point, are all these violations going to go to 200, and then each individual violation is going to go to 500?
Multiple factor per visit, I would say.
Yes,
Is that-
Mayor,
am I-
yes, each fine then accumulates, and, if they address one, it's removed from the letter. So,
Okay.
but that fine would be an accumulation of all of the various, violations, then again apply to all of the various citations sent.
I mean, it takes a resident to fix these before they climb to greater heights, but, I don't know, at the offense number 4, where it goes to $1,000, at some point I'd like to see that merged, I suppose, because all the violations shouldn't, we can't, if they're not going to do anything at all, raising these fines to $40,000, $50,000 is not gonna do anything anyway. So are we doing things that aren't really, I get the administrative citation, we wanna get them to act, but I struggle with, getting up to $10,000 and they're like, hey, that's gonna go on the property. Are we ever going to see remediation on this, so,
I think the question you're asking is, at what point do we stop the administrative process and do an abatement proceeding?
Right, before we just keep sending, you combine all the violations, and then at some point you say, you know what, we need to abate this property and fix it.
Mayor, Council, looked at it, looked out, I cross-referenced it with the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet, which is, I think, I mean, this bill gets $19,000.
Right, and I think I saw that in the letter, 19,000, yeah. Yeah.
Mayor,
So-
Council, that is something that we've discussed as a department, is to what point would you even start sending the letters certified? So, you know, it is clarified that this is real, they're holding that responsibility of signing it. There is a point that we do reach out to BGS. Abatement also isn't cheap, so, you know, there is that fine line as to how far do we push with a letter and hoping that they respond before we jump to abatement, which is very costly, so. But I do agree that there has to be that time.
And on that, I'd just like to add is like, when do they start noticing it? Do they notice it at 100, they notice it at 1,500 or 2,000? When do they start saying, wait a minute, I mean, I gotta talk to somebody?
Clearly, they have more money than we do, because I wouldn't notice it right away.
You know,
I would-
not to, you know, if you get a letter from the city and you're like, I don't expect nothing from the city, you rip it up, you throw it away, you know, there's those people. I would think at some point, you know, maybe at the $500 range, it's gotta be certified and signed for, and that way the city gets, you know, you've seen it, you know, at the fine level of $500. That's just what I would like to do. By no means am I advocating to dismiss this one, but at some point we gotta make sure that the resident sees it. And
But I want to also add
Don't
that.
put themselves in too deep type of thing.
yeah,
But I want to just say here something, and Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, on one of the properties that just is in abatement now, they denied that they even got any bailies from us, even though they assigned for it. Am I right on that, or am I wrong?
Mayor, Council, the one we did the abatement last week was denied, has denied that they signed and certified.
And we have copies, they did.
We have the signature back from the postal service that it was received by that property.
See?
but we've done our due diligence.
Exactly, and I just want to emphasize here, as we stated before, this is in that 2 to 5% range that I don't know if you can ever change their stripes or spots. But this is the one thing we have to deal with. Luckily, thankfully, there's more people that once they're notified of the policies, do follow the policies and then take pride in properties. So this is 2 to 5%. It allows us to sit here for 2 hours discussing this. So I understand where you're coming from. Rich, please, anything?
I mean, the dollar amount seems astronomical, but all of this is in the homeowner's control. All of it. And if you're gonna be a homeowner, bring some responsibility. I don't know, as you flip through these pictures, it's like, what, I don't know. I am, this one needs to stand, and the other dollar amount is significant, but it was all in their control, just like every other person has been in front of us. So,
As I said earlier, before we start this whole process, I know, as I can speak for myself, and I'm confident I can speak for you gentlemen, that none of us want to be in this situation or in this open hearing today.
no, we don't.
And we don't have to do this again for quite a long time, would make me very happy. All right, moving on to 4,000 DeGarner Circle, Northwest, would be the next one. This is $660 one. Want to give us any information on this one?
Mayor and Council, this one was one that took a couple citations, they did clean it up. I think reading their letter, it's maybe that misunderstanding that just because you clean it up means the citation goes away. When we drove by last week, the property is still clean, we're hoping it maintains that.
And I think that may be one of the misconceptions of the public, is that they think if they clean it up, that the fines go away. Once the fines are levied, as I stated before, and I didn't mean as anything derogatory to the police, but as I've gotten tickets over my life, once they write it and it's set in motion there, and a copy's been made, it's a done deal. You can question it in court, you can have your day in court to question it, but the police officers, his hands are tied. Once, am I correct, Chief? Once he writes it, and again, it's up to the person, if you have a question on it or whatever, or want to, appeal it, you go to the court, through a system that's there in your favor, or not in your favor, but in your process to do it. So, here, once again, they corrected it, but they didn't still follow through with the fine they owe. This is their process to go to court here, to appeal it here, and again, we don't see anyone here. So, how important can it be to them if it's, it's supposed to be important to us, but yet it's not important to them enough to show up to speak their peace of mind. So, Joe, I'll turn it to you.
I'm gonna go along with everything we've done so far. It's gotta stay, I think it's unfortunate that we're not here. And the misunderstanding, I don't understand where there's so many misunderstandings as far as not taking care of it. It lists it out pretty clearly, so.
I would say one thing here, is it possible, and I don't know if it can, tell me if it can be whatever, is it possible to let them know or through a notification that even though you've corrected this in writing, maybe once more to cover our butts of anything of all CY08 type of thing, you know, can we put something here that says that just because you corrected it to our standards today, you're still liable for the citation? Is that, because I mean, sometimes you just have to make things so specifically clear. Maybe we're not making it clear enough that they can think they can write on that thought.
Or perhaps maybe just an extra bold, a little statement at the bottom of the letter. You know, something that's bold or italicized, or just maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is that possible? Or, you know, I mean, because we, you know, sometimes I think people have convenient memory loss, or just want to hear what they want to hear, see what they want to see, and they thinking that they corrected it, that citation is shoved away now or just put on the back burner. It's not.
Yep, Mayor and Council, this letter is written by the city, so any changes we can make, we can definitely review the language, and maybe if it's time to review that language again, pass it through BGS to make sure we're still on point and update it with.
I mean, it doesn't mean they'll read it. We know that. But it means, I think it'd be a good idea at least to cover ourselves, to say, so that they don't go into this assumption that just because they remediated up to today, that they're not liable for that citation, because they are. Because once it's written, it's up, and then of course, maybe it's in, and I know it's already in there, that they have a time to appeal. That's already in play now, and yet we don't see anybody here. And in fact, that last gentleman that got up had to be pushed to get up to talk, because I was just about ready to close the open hearing. So, again, I don't know what all the ways around it. We can't take them to trough and make them drink. We can't sit there and go to their house and read it for them and write the check for them, do everything for them. There is some responsibility that falls on their lap, and they have to deal with it. So, I'm just saying to you, maybe more clear than we can be, as we are, but clarity doesn't mean they'll show up, and if you send out a message that there's a recycle day, doesn't mean they're gonna go to recycle day. That's the fact of life. All right. Jerry, you just got anything else?
No, I think this is pretty clear. Again, it makes me happy to see that problem mitigated. You know, to me, it seems like this administrative process did exactly what it was supposed to do. I think go forward with it.
Rich?
Now, I think this one needs to stand, you know, and you can go review the letter, but then again, the only people you're hearing from are the ones that took issue. You're not hearing from the folks that understood the letter and paid the fine and fixed their stuff. You know, so maybe you don't have a real big problem with the misunderstanding of the letter. You know, it doesn't hurt to go look at it, see, things can always be improved. But no, I think given everything we've done, I don't see any reason to give this one leniency when we didn't do the other ones.
I would tend to agree. By far, this was the least of the issues. I appreciate that it was cleared up, and their fine will not increase above the 600 mark, right? So until that's paid, it won't go to another fine for non-payment or anything like that. It just, that's what they owe, 600.
660.
Correct.
660.
10%.
Gotcha. So, yeah, this is a rough process, but I don't see any changes that need to be made.
Thank you. And as far as what, I just want to make sure that people understand this, as far as the penalty on these type of things, we can only charge no more than $75, mostly 10%, but not up till $75. Is that correct, Darcy?
So,
It's limited to $74.
Or 10% or 75? So that,
Utility bills.
all right, so that even on that large one, just for the council's information, even on that large one of $19,000, that was only a $75 charge.
Administrative fee.
Administrative, yeah. That's all that was by law. So once again, this is not our way of creating revenue for the city by any stretch of the imagination. All right, moving on. I think we used to have one more after that. Or is that it?
Thank you. We had a motion and a second. Now we just had a discussion.
All right, so now.
So I think you're at the point where we didn't disagree with any of the
Any
fines.
votes?
That's.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We will move on to some better things here, I hope. Anyway, let's go here to, okay. All right, now we're going to move on to ordinance 243, second series, approving the sale of city-owned real estate, second reading. I don't know if we have any discussion on this because we pretty much discussed this one the last time, I believe. We know the property, we know it's, Public Works has stated that there's no reason for us to maintain or keep it. I know the county said the same thing, so I'll just pass this around. I'll start with you, Joe. Anything you have to say? Great.
No, I missed the last meeting, so that was one of the things that I really read up with prior to the meeting, but I have no questions.
It's a very small piece of property. They lost it through the through that road going on Cherry Street.
Yep.
It's really, I talked to Joe McPherson over at the county. They don't want it, and it was given to us back in the JPA. I've talked to our Public Works Director. They don't want it. They see no need for it. It's a sliver. You can't build really anything on it. What the owners want to do is pretty much put a berm up there, put some evergreens to get their privacy back there. They lost with the road.
No, to me that sounds perfect.
Then we get some income.
I'd be in favor of that.
Rich?
Nothing.
Rob?
I have nothing to add on this one.
Okay, this is an ordinance, so do I need a motion first and then go to an ordinance, is how I do it?
Yeah.
Second, and then roll call.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 243, second series, approving the sale of city-owned real estate, second reading?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion to adopt ordinance 243, second series, approving sale of city-owned real estate, second reading.
Thank you, Mr. DeVay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Beerwater makes a second. All right, this is a roll call. So, Lori?
Councilmember Jerry DeVay,
Yes.
Councilmember Joe Beeler,
Aye.
Councilmember Robert Bauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Rich Skordahl,
Aye.
Mayor Steve Feldman.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes, or ordinance passes. Very good. Now, this will move on to a 30-day publication, Joe?
Yeah, and then it'll be, I guess, considered surplus or effective.
And then we have to, and then what's the process to find out the charge or the property value?
We can move forward, we talked to Kay about getting and now terminology is slipping my mind, not a formal,
Fair market value.
thank you.
Because we know that the value of that the county put on was outrageous. That $20,000 number for that sliver property is ridiculous.
Now, Joe, do we need a summary publication motion?
Not for this one, Barb said, because it's copy and paste, it's gonna go right in.
Okay.
And as written, it was about the same either way is what I was told, so.
Okay.
There'll be some administrative fees and of course legal fees and that type of thing like that, and then we'll go on to hopefully a workable price. We don't want to gouge anybody, but,
Let's keep it reasonable.
yeah, reasonable, there's a good word. All right, thank you, Jerry. All right, moving on to ordinance 244, second series amending fee schedule, first reading. I have some questions that I have on the fee schedules, so I just want to see what you can come up with me as far as answers. I want to go here. On page, well, first of all, I'm going to do the front page of this. Can you show me, it says here, Kate, set fees to reflect the cost associated with actual cost to utilize Metro West and administration time to 120. What page is that on that I didn't see?
So Mayor and Council, within your packet, the agenda report I put in there was to reflect the changes in fees related to the building department and land use specifically. What we have found is if we use Metro West and when we use Metro West for site visits, some of our individual permit fees are flat fees. We're not covering that expense. So to cover their expense and the city's expense, those fees have been increased to 120.
Okay.
So for example, one of the fees would be like the windows and doors.
What page?
I don't have the same
Okay, you
figures.
don't have that page.
So it would be within building towards the bottom, because they're alphabetical. So windows and doors would go, residential roofing would go up. So that would be the actual expenses needed to use Metro West and staff in order to cover that.
A combination of both.
Correct, because even though we use Metro West as a permit inspector, there's still an administrative staff time for the scheduling, for the acceptance, for the processing, for the data. So bumping a few of those up, so what we did is we sat down and we looked at all of them. We bumped up the ones that are zoning that either didn't have a fee or it was too low, we're trying to make those level at 50. And those that we need to capture an increase due to using Metro West, bumped them up to 120.
Right, so when we inspected it without Metro West, we were fine, but when Metro West comes into play, we weren't fine.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know on that, thank you. Now, I'm gonna go to, because we have the pages and you don't. So I will go to, let's see, on page 222, which is number 13. I don't understand this one. HVAC heating installation, $95 went to 120. I don't have a problem with that. But HVAC air conditioning going from 55 to 120, I don't understand that one.
Again, if we send out Metro West, that's what we need to charge to cover.
All right, so I guess what I'm saying is, I just assumed that Phil was inspecting those, but it could be Metro West also.
Correct.
Okay, that's
So
what.
he's on vacation, or we utilize them to take some of these smaller busy ones in the summer to put Phil on those main projects, we have to be able to cover that fee.
All right, and then so instead of taking the time to split it up and say, well, he's on this vacation, so we'll go back to 55, we're just gonna blanket it, is what you're saying. Would be the easier way to go.
I don't think we can have multiple fees for.
Right.
I think Kate and I met for quite some time on this, and so we kind of calculated where does the city bring in the most revenue, and where should Phil's time be dedicated, and he should take those projects. And a lot of these smaller ones, it's easier to just have Metro West and city staff handle it, and then Phil take the larger scale projects so that the city captures more revenue. So that's the overall idea behind this, so that Phil would be doing new home permits and things like that, whereas Metro West could do a roofing inspection, and the city would capture more revenue that way.
Right, I understand that, but you're going from 55 up to 65, so I have to have an explanation to that. So you're telling me that basically to turn over that stuff to Metro West, which costs us more to do, so that's why we're trying to cover the cost. Okay, that makes sense to me. Then on the next page, I have item 31, would be the same thing as a water softener permit and water heater residential, 55 to 120 is the same reasoning?
Correct.
Okay, all right, well then that makes sense to me. Okay.
One more thing, and I just think that this is important, it just brought my attention that.
You won't need the open hearing though, right?
These are the old water and sewer rates prior to the reduction in here, in this resolution, so when we go to, pass this resolution, let's, as a resolution or ordinance, it's an ordinance. It's with the understanding that we go back to the rate reduction for the next reading, so.
Say that again, so I understand.
The water and sewer rates are the rates that we had before we reduced them.
Okay.
So this is not an updated fee
Okay.
schedule on that part.
So do we do an ordinance, David, and then pull that part of it out, or?
When we do the motion second, we're just gonna add it in that, as part of the motion, we're putting the updated water and sewer rates.
Okay,
into
all right, that's good, okay. All right, I'm gonna, okay, that clarifies my questions. Joe, do you have any questions on this?
No, you covered it.
Okay, Gary?
No, I have no questions. This is really cut and dry.
Okay, Rob?
Nope, I have no questions.
Rich?
Nope, thanks for the explanation about the building permits, that answered my questions.
Okay, good. All right, so on that, let's see, do you want to read that, Dave, so, because I'll probably not remember.
It's
what
the
you said.
motion is and a second, adopted ordinance 244 second series, amending the fee schedule, first reading with the noted updated water and sewer rates to be inserted.
I will make the first motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Romero makes that second. This is an ordinance, so we have a roll call again.
Councilmember Rich Skordahl,
Aye.
Councilmember Robert Bauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Bauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Jerry DeBate,
Aye.
Mayor Steve Feldman.
Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, now moving on to set the special meeting to canvass the election. We have some dates, the 13th, 14th, or 15th to do this. So everybody pull out your calendar. When were you looking, Joe, you were thinking about what time to do this of the day?
You know, I don't know, 5, 6 o'clock, whatever works for the council, I suppose, whatever you guys can make.
So, 13th, 14th, or 15th, that would be a Wednesday, Thursday, or no, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
I would prefer Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay, so we got down to 13th and 14th? Okay, so either one of those days, 13th, 14th? Okay, Jerry?
I'm looking, I'm thinking I work overtime all three of those days, but you only need a quorum, you only need three, but I will, I'm double checking.
Will you check it, Rich?
I think either one of those days works for me, I believe.
Okay. So I would suggest,
I probably can't get up here by 5, but it might have to be,
6, 5:30?
yeah, I should be able to be here by 5:30, I would think.
Okay. How about, Jerry can let me know here, but when a quorum is all we need. So how about the 13th at City Hall at 5:30, which would be Tuesday?
That'll put me out.
You can? No. You can't?
No.
Okay,
Dropping
so,
like flies.
okay, so how about 14th?
The 14th.
Okay, let's do it now. Okay, let's go. How about that, Rich? Can you do the 14th?
Yes.
Okay, the 14th, 5:30 p.m. at City Hall. Okay? Does that sound like a real way to go? Good. Okay, so, once again, the canvas election results will be done on the 14th, on Wednesday at 5:30 at City Hall.
Mr. Mayor, I won't be able to make
Okay,
that.
okay, no problem. We've got it going this other meeting. Okay, good. Yeah, that doesn't take much longer. Yeah, 5:30.
You have to get your grandkids to operate your phones here? Come on.
I'm still back there, still. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody on that one. All right, moving on to, meeting of the public. I take it, no one? All right, this time I don't see many people out there, so, okay. I only see 3 candidates. So, okay. All right, moving on to, council member reports. Joe, you want to start one?
Well, I attended the Anoka County, I'll forget that. Fire Protection Council.
Yep.
That's what it is. With Mayor Feldman, I do not remember the exact date of that, but I was there. It was
It was the 24th, 25th, was it?
All right. We had
I know you're a jail like that.
2 EDA meetings as well that I attended. And there was some other things that I did, but it's escaping me at this point. Not that serious.
What, any other news on the
The sound, which obviously we're not having very good sound tonight, I talked to our administrator about that, and I think we're gonna have to find a time here within the next week or so to go on a field trip to actually pick something up and take a look at it. So that's where we're at with that. We were under the understanding that we thought we had different mics here at the time, and discovered that we actually have no mics right now. So.
You know, I just want to say something on that, and we talked about this before, but if it comes down to where the city needs to pay for it, we have it, it's ours, you know. Eventually someday this city may move into a new city hall, and we can reuse it, so it won't be money not spent wisely.
Well, and they have a deal too, as a 45-day return policy, so you can actually take it and try it out a few times. See how it
Right,
works.
but my point is, whatever we get, instead of getting it into the hands of ISD 15 or St. Francis Area Schools, correct, sorry, I didn't get that correct, but until we get, maybe what we should be doing is thinking more in the terms of getting it done, because it does reflect our meetings, and this has been an ongoing problem for the 2 years I sat out in the audience, 2 years now, and I know Rich and all your time too on the council, so I'm just saying to you, maybe we should just take the bull by the horn and solve this problem once and for all. If the equipment is ours, it will be used by us, not by them. I hate to be like that, but at the same time, I don't see a solution happening working together. just the thought I had, just want to bring that up. Jerry, what's your councilman report?
Excuse me?
Report.
Okay, I want to say, tomorrow's election day. You know, everybody get out and vote. Kind of an offshoot of talking about voting. I really want to commend the candidates, you know, for actually putting themselves out there and campaigning. And I see them out here in the audience today that, you know, looking in the audience, watching us up here, trying to make these decisions. I don't know why anybody would want to willingly step into this job. So, well, really, I mean, I'm serious. I mean, it's kind of a thankless job, and it's hard decisions, you know, and nobody wants to sit here and say, we're going to find you, but, you know, that's the reality of it. So I really wanted to say hats off to the candidates. You know, I think all your hard work, you know, we'll find out the results tomorrow, and you know, those of you that win, you know, congratulations, and those of you that aren't elected, you know, there's a lot of other opportunities to get involved in the city. There'll be openings on boards and commissions now that if some people leave, and please volunteer for those positions, and don't stop being active in the city. Yeah, I wanted to tell everybody, like I say, you know, every couple weeks, drive safe. You know, it's getting darker earlier. It's harder to see these kids. In addition to that, it's also the time of the year that the wildlife is starting to move. And I can't tell you how many people have posted, you know, deer car collisions and stuff like that on Facebook. It's out there a lot. So we're talking about that. I know a lot of people up at this neck of the woods are going hunting and stuff. Opening deer season was last week, but it's going to be going on for 3 weeks. You know, just be safe out there with your firearms. Watch where you're shooting. And then last but not least, I want to apologize for my phone. It's been dinging all night. And I know somebody is, you know, Richard said, oh, you need your kids to come over. The volume says it's down and it's still dinging me notifications, so.
Wonderful world of electronics.
Yeah, I was at City Hall this morning trying to reset up my email because the salesman assured me it's a Google Pixel. Well, you just plug it in, it transfers everything right over. I lost my email accounts, I lost passwords, I lost Wi-Fi. So this morning I was at City Hall trying to reset that back up to try to communicate with people and get notifications. Now I can't get these notifications to shut up. So I gotta talk to somebody again. But you know, that's really all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And by the way, the worship is great when it doesn't.
It's embarrassing. Ding. And I was sitting on it, but my butt was vibrating all the time. So.
I just would like to, you know, I did this last year. I'm not a big supporter of the stormwater assessment. Everybody knows that. But it's a necessary evil to all of our residents. I hate to see the residents get charged an additional $6 for the, you know, the late fee or whatever. So get out, pay your stormwater assessment. It is not graded based on how much stormwater you have soaking into each lot. It was assessed at every parcel within St. Francis. That means the stormwater control that we use for our roads, all these things is how our stormwater assessment is being paid. So if you're a resident and you're driving on our roads and you live out on 36 acres and you believe that you don't have or contribute to any stormwater, you drive on the city roads, and that's what this assessment is paying for to alleviate some of the stormwater. So get out and pay your, you know, your stormwater assessments. Maybe there's a better way to pay it in the future. Franchise fees, who knows? But this is the way that we're paying for it right now, and this is something that, you know, is being mandated down from the federal government. So pay it, don't pay anything more than you have to. That's it.
Thanks, Rich.
No, I just reiterate, you're welcome to tomorrow. I'd like to thank one of our citizens who took it upon ourselves to organize kind of an informal meet the candidates for this Fairbanks. So that was a couple last week. And then I was gonna ask, is there anybody else who will not be here next council meeting? So I'm trying to debate if I can support a meeting in New Jersey, but I would not land here at MSP until like 5 in the evening. And that's getting kind of sporty.
It's on the 17th, right? I will be.
19th is the next meeting, the 19th?
19th.
I'll be coming on, that's one thing I was gonna say too. 19th, yes, I will be, in Texas.
Okay.
I will be missing the 19th.
Okay, so if you're missing, that probably makes my decision.
Well, no. Okay, so and Jerry, will you be here?
I'll be here.
All right, well, that's a forum.
We don't have a quorum, but if you have any ordinances, that would be an issue.
Well, can we
Well, we'll just pull
can we
it from.
pull from it and deal with it next time? Can we?
Can't do your trip, right?
Just continue. I mean, no, don't bust it, get here, that's ridiculous.
No, I mean, I just gotta make a mind if I can even go on the trip or not.
Well,
So we're gonna do
well, I think
Where are you going?
we have a forum, and that's all we need. We have to, we can table something like Dave just said, so.
Okay, I'll let Joe know if I will be here or
All
not.
right,
Right
that's
now.
up to you and your
May
schedule.
or may not.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. I want to say to you that, again, going with what Rob just said here, you know, the $60, it's out of our hands, as I explained here earlier, but to let it go to the amount that is in receivableship, if you want to call it, or waiting to get, the dollar amount just boggles my mind. I've got like, what, about 6-7 pages of unpaid $60. I mean, it's just, and I think Rob is right in the sense that you have to look at what, you know, just like for instance, on the septic well people that tell us, you know, that they, you know, they're not paying for the wastewater treatment facility. You are indirectly when you go to the county market or Beef O'Brady's or whatever, you're paying indirectly. You're using services, you're using our roads and stuff like this. You have to look at things like what the council does, looking at the bigger picture of things. And that's what that $60 is. It's not specifically because you don't have a problem on your lot, doesn't mean that the city doesn't have a problem in general. And I want to emphasize again that those funds are in a dedicated account only to be used for stormwater related activities. It will not be taken out like what was done in 2007 to buy land up by Santa County. That will not happen. It is just for stormwater related activities only. So I think that's one of the things that people question, but I can assure you that's where the money is for and where it is and what it's for. So, but you have to look again at the bigger picture, and I appreciate how you explain that, because you use our roads and everything else in the city, we share it in our city. It's a small city, but it's a city we share together as neighbors and residents. We have to look at it in that picture. Also, I want to thank the candidates here who have been out and about. I've just completed 4 months of walking in the city. Next time I tell you in 2 years, if I get reelected, I will use a Fitbit, because I can tell you, I walked a lot. I just don't know how much I walked, but I've been everywhere.
Looks well.
Huh?
Looks well.
Anyway, good exercise. Yesterday was my last day, and I'm thankful for that. Not that I don't talk to residents, but after a while, so I cut my lawn. I like doing it when spring first starts, and then by the end of the summer, I'm tired of cutting lawn, and I was tired of walking after a while. But I want to emphasize one major thing to everybody. A ballot, you can fill out as much of the ballot as you want. You don't have to fill out any of it if you don't want. You can fill out just the city part, just the state part, not the federal part, or all of it, whatever you want. But the most important part of that ballot is these people running for council, because that's the most one-on-one direct effect of your life on a daily basis. So the city is where it all happens. I'd like to tell you that we have more control at the other end. It's still important to vote for that. I've always voted. I believe in that. I get frustrated when people don't vote and complain. It doesn't really give you much of a right to complain when you don't vote and participate. But if it comes down to where you're really, after all these commercials we've all been subjected to and all that, if you're getting frustrated at the federal and state level, like I say once again, the most important one you can do is the city level. That really affects your life. So please get out and vote. The polls are open here at District 15 offices, 4115 Ambassador Boulevard, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
7 a.m. to 8.
Okay, right. One polling district area, this is where it's at, 4115 Ambassador Boulevard, the ISD 15 district offices. I want to also say that we attended the fire council meeting. What I'm very happy about, by the way, and I mentioned this to our chief before, is that right now fire is being at the same table with administrative, public works, and police, which is a good thing.
I think that this is on a bigger scale too, just not us, but on other cities. I think it's about time that happened. I think it's long overdue. We had a very good productive meeting. There's a meeting on January 25th, I believe, for the budget that elected officials, we will be there. Of course, I have to get rid of that to do that. But anyway, once again, I want to thank everybody for your time and patience in this. Yeah, you for sure. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for your patience through the open hearing, which, again, I've always stated that meetings will take as long as it takes to do the city's business. I hope we never go through that for quite a long period of time. Any other further business we need to discuss?
I was wondering if we can get an update on, maybe not this meeting, but perhaps the next meeting on the work with the snowmobile parking area or something like that, if there's been any headway with that.
Okay. And then Chief Schweiger, Todd, do we have any update on how many have signed up for Nixle? Because I know I've been pumping that stuff out, and I'm just curious.
I haven't looked at all these, but I can take a few spots.
Okay. Because I've been passing out a lot of sheets and bugging people left and
Last
right.
number was right around 700, I think, last time I spoke with you.
Okay, so let me know. But people are liking it. And it just shows, like I said before, is that I think it got lost in the shuffle in the first year just because we had so much on our plate. And then we finally got to promoting it. It's a good thing. But we had notifications last week about a gas leak at the city hall. We've had accidents and fire crews out and stuff like this. So from what I've seen and gathering from the public input, they like what they see and it's a good service. Of course, it's always easy. If you don't want it anymore, just check stop in the story. Any further business? None? Then at this time, I will call the meeting adjourned at 8:27.